My dad thinks child support is the only thing he owes me. Am I wrong for feeling like I'm stuck in the middle of their drama? So, a bit of backstory. My parents have been separated for as long as I can remember. I've basically grown up as the go-between, stuck in the middle of their never-ending drama.
It's been exhausting.
I just turned 18, and I'm finally at the point where I'm counting down the days until I turn 21 so I don't have to deal with this anymore. I'm hoping that once I'm an adult, I'll be able to have some peace and distance from all of this, but for now, it feels like I'm caught in the same cycle I've been in since childhood. A few years ago, my dad's life took a major upgrade. He got a new job, moved to a different city, married my stepmom, and then they had my little sister. His new job bumped his salary up significantly, which is great for him, but when that happened, my mom took him back to court to adjust his child support payments. The whole $75 per month thing was obviously a joke, and I don't think anyone would argue that. I was barely getting lunch money from that. So, yeah, my mom went to court to ask for an increase, and while I don't blame her, $75 didn't even cover a week of groceries. The way my dad reacted was, well, typical. Since then, things have gotten a little tense. My dad, with my stepmom's not-so-subtle influence, has turned incredibly passive-aggressive about the whole thing. Every conversation about money turns into a lecture. It's like, suddenly, he's the martyr. He'll say things like, "Every time I get paid, you get paid," or, "That money isn't for your mom to pay her bills," as if it's some big inconvenience for him. Like, yeah, dude, that money is literally keeping a roof over my head.
Thanks for pointing that out.
And I'm at the point now where I don't even ask him for anything anymore.
It feels pointless.
I haven't received so much as $5 from him in the last 3 years, and it's honestly draining. The weirdest part is that he still acts like he's doing me a favor just by paying child support. Don't get me wrong, I know it's required by law, but his attitude makes me feel like I should be endlessly grateful, as though he's giving me something above and beyond what's necessary. There have been times I needed money for things, like school supplies or a new jacket, or even just gas money. But every time I bring it up, he'll twist it into something it's not. For example, when I was 16 and needed money for textbooks, I tried to ask him for help, and it turned into this whole thing where he reminded me that he's already paying child support and that I shouldn't expect anything more from him. Which, sure, he's right, he is paying the court-mandated amount. But that $1,250 he pays each month doesn't even begin to cover what it costs to live on Long Island, let alone New York in general. I'm talking about rent, bills, food, basic living expenses. It's barely scratching the surface of what it takes to live here, and it certainly doesn't account for all the other costs of being a teenager and now an adult. It's gotten to the point where I just avoid talking to him unless it's about my little sisters, and even then, it's awkward. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells around him because everything gets twisted into some conversation about money and how he's the one doing the generous thing by paying his child support.
It's honestly frustrating.
At the end of the day, he just wants to be left alone to enjoy his new life with his new family while acting like the bare minimum is something extraordinary. I feel like a total jerk for even thinking this way, but it really sucks. I didn't ask to be put in the middle of this. I didn't ask for their issues to spill over into my life, but here I am, caught between two parents who can't seem to get along for the sake of their child. I don't want to be the person who complains or makes things worse, but I can't help but feel like I'm being treated as an afterthought in his eyes. It's as if my existence is a series of transactions, and everything I've done or gone through doesn't matter beyond the money he's paying to my mom. What gets me the most is that I know my dad can afford more. He's making way more now than he ever did when he was with my mom.
They both know that.
But because the child support is set by the court, it's like he thinks that's the only thing he's obligated to do. He doesn't even acknowledge how much more it costs to live and be a teenager in this area. I get that it's a lot of money to pay, but it's like he doesn't see that I'm still his child. I'm not just a line item in his budget, but that's how he treats me. And now, I'm at a point where I don't even feel comfortable asking him for anything.
Not even small things.
It's like the fear of his judgment is bigger than my actual need. It's taken a toll on my mental health because I've had to become self-sufficient before I was even ready. I've had to grow up faster than I wanted, all because of this tension and this emotional distance. I wish he could see that I'm not just asking for money, I'm asking for a parent who can be there for me, not someone who just checks off a financial obligation. I guess I'm just trying to figure out if I'm wrong for feeling this way or if this is just the reality I have to accept. I can't change him, and I'm tired of trying. But I can't help but feel like he should do more than just throw money at me. I don't want to be bitter about it, but I am. I want a relationship, not just a paycheck. I'm so tired of being stuck in the middle of their drama, and it feels like there's no way out. So, Reddit, am I wrong for thinking my dad should help more, or is this just a situation I need to accept and move on from?
Update.
First off, I want to start by saying a huge thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. I honestly didn't expect the kind of outpouring of support and advice that I received. It made such a difference in how I viewed the situation. A lot of you mentioned the importance of boundaries and how I deserved more than just financial support, and that really struck a chord with me. It was comforting to know that I wasn't alone in feeling the way I do. Your feedback gave me a lot to think about and helped me feel less isolated in all this. It's been a few months since I posted, and things have shifted a bit, though not in the ways I expected. The progress has been slow, but there have definitely been some small victories that I want to share with you all. I think, looking back, I've learned some hard truths about myself, my dad, and what I want from this relationship. It's still a work in progress, but I feel like I'm finally starting to take control of the narrative rather than just being a passive participant in my parents' drama. After reading all of your comments, I realized that the issue wasn't just about money, it was also about respect and emotional connection. I'd been letting my dad's financial contributions define our relationship, but in reality, I was craving something deeper, a relationship where I wasn't just the kid he has to pay child support for. I needed him to see me as a person with emotions, needs, and wants that go beyond his wallet. It was a wake-up call for me that I didn't have to settle for just what the court says he owes me. I needed more, and I was entitled to ask for it. The hardest part of this whole situation was setting boundaries. I'm sure some of you can relate, but calling him and saying something that directly challenged how he's been treating me was incredibly difficult. It felt terrifying because I feared he'd just shut me down and remind me that the child support was all I was entitled to. But I knew I couldn't keep ignoring the problem. So, I called him, and despite how awkward it felt, I told him that I needed to talk about something important. I don't think we've had a real conversation in years, so it felt like I was navigating uncharted territory. But I was direct and told him that while I appreciated the child support, that wasn't the only thing I needed from him. I needed emotional support. I wanted him to be involved in my life, not just as the guy who sends a check, but as a father who takes an interest in who I am and what I'm doing. It wasn't an easy conversation, and at first, he seemed a bit defensive, but I stuck with it. I explained that I wanted more than just money. I wanted to feel like I mattered to him as a person, not just as a line item on his monthly budget. To my surprise, my dad didn't shut me out. It wasn't some big dramatic apology or an immediate promise to change, but he did acknowledge that he'd been distant. He admitted that he hadn't been the best father and said that he understood that the child support wasn't the only thing I needed. I won't lie, it wasn't a perfect conversation, and there were definitely moments when it felt awkward, but it was a start. He didn't immediately jump into the "I'm already paying" defense that I was expecting, which I took as a good sign. We agreed that moving forward, we'd try to communicate more, not just about money, but about my life, my goals, and how I was doing in general. It wasn't a complete transformation of our relationship, but I felt like a door had opened, and that was enough for me to feel some hope. Since that conversation, things have been better? I won't say it's been smooth sailing, but I feel like there's less tension. We've had a couple of conversations where we actually talked about my life, not just logistics and finances. It's awkward, but not in the way it used to be. I don't feel like I'm walking on eggshells all the time anymore, which is a relief. But I know it's still going to take time to build a deeper connection, and I'm trying to be patient with that process. As for the money side of things, I've made the decision to stop asking him for anything unless it's absolutely urgent. I've come to realize that I was placing too much focus on what he should be giving me financially, and it wasn't helping either of us. I'm not saying that the child support isn't important, but I've had to acknowledge that expecting him to give me more than what the court has decided isn't necessarily realistic or fair to him. However, the emotional support? That's been my priority. I've stopped measuring our relationship by how much money he gives me and started focusing on how he engages with me emotionally. It's a shift in mindset that has helped me cope with the reality of what my dad is able to give me. I'm trying to let go of the resentment that I've been carrying and focus on what can change, rather than what hasn't. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that I need to stop letting the tension between my parents define my relationship with my dad. The issues they have are between them, not between me and him. For years, I've let their drama bleed into my own life, thinking I had to mediate it somehow or pick sides. I've realized now that I can't control how they interact, but I can control how I respond. I don't have to be stuck in the middle anymore. It's been freeing, honestly. I can have my relationship with my dad without letting his issues with my mom overshadow everything. It's still early days, and I don't expect everything to be fixed overnight. I've had moments of frustration where I felt like I wasn't getting what I needed, but overall, I feel like I'm moving in the right direction. There's no perfect solution here, and I know my relationship with my dad will always be a bit complicated. But I'm no longer afraid to set boundaries or speak up when something doesn't feel right. I'm learning to communicate better, and I'm starting to accept that, while I can't change my dad, I can change how I engage with him. So yeah, things aren't perfect, but there's definitely been progress. I'm not completely stuck in the middle anymore, and I feel like I'm starting to take back some control over how I want my relationship with him to look moving forward. It's a slow and sometimes frustrating journey, but I'm hopeful. Thanks again for all the support, advice, and kind words. You all really helped me find the courage to speak up, and that's made a huge difference. I'll keep you all updated as things continue to evolve, but for now, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Appreciate it. Final update.
I can't even begin to express how much I appreciate everyone who took the time to read and respond to my original post. The support, advice, and thoughtful feedback I received were incredibly helpful, and they've meant more to me than I can say. Many of you mentioned the importance of boundaries, self-worth, and emotional support, and honestly, that really stuck with me. It felt so validating to know I wasn't alone in feeling the way I did, and your encouragement helped me push through the hardest parts of this journey. Now, after several months of reflecting and making some significant changes, I'm back with a final update. Things have shifted in a big way, more than I could have ever expected, and I wanted to share the good news with all of you. It's been a long road, but I finally feel like I'm in a much healthier place emotionally, and I've made some real strides in my relationship with my dad. So here goes. The biggest breakthrough for me was realizing that I'm deserving of more than just financial support. I spent so many years allowing my dad's child support payments to define the entirety of our relationship. What I needed to realize was that I wasn't just the kid he had to give money to, I was his child, and I deserved emotional support, too. For the longest time, I accepted the bare minimum and thought that was just how things had to be. But as I started to reflect on your advice, I came to understand that I had every right to ask for more, not just financially, but emotionally. So I decided to have a conversation with my dad. I won't lie, it was nerve-wracking. We hadn't had a real heart-to-heart in years, so I had no idea how he'd react. But I knew I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine when it wasn't. When I finally sat down with him and expressed how much I needed him to be present emotionally, not just as someone who pays child support, he actually listened. I was prepared for him to shut me down, but he didn't. He admitted that he hadn't been as involved as he should have been and acknowledged that child support wasn't enough to sustain a meaningful father-daughter relationship. While it wasn't a magical overnight change, it felt like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders just knowing that he wasn't dismissing my feelings. Since that conversation, things have improved between us. It's not perfect, but we've had more real talks about my life, my goals, and what's going on in my world. I'm not walking on eggshells anymore. I can finally be myself around him without feeling like he's just going to remind me of his financial obligations. We've even managed to laugh together, something that hasn't happened in years. I won't pretend everything is magically fixed. It's still going to take time to rebuild the kind of father-daughter connection I'd like to have, but I'm actually feeling hopeful about it now. We've been setting aside time to check in with each other, and even though I know it's going to be a slow process, I can finally see the possibility of a stronger, more genuine relationship in the future. I'm no longer afraid to speak up about what I need from him, and that's a huge relief. Another key lesson I've learned is how much I was letting my parents' drama impact my own relationship with my dad. For so long, I felt like I had to be caught in the middle, trying to fix things between them or somehow mediate their issues. But I finally realized that their problems aren't mine to solve, and I can have a separate relationship with each of them, independent of their dynamic. It's freeing to no longer feel like I'm constantly being pulled in different directions. My relationship with my dad is just that, my relationship with him, and I can choose how to engage with him without being dragged into their past conflicts. It's been empowering, and I feel like I'm reclaiming my own space in all of this. Looking back, I can honestly say that this journey has been both challenging and rewarding. I don't expect things to be perfect, and I know there will still be bumps in the road. But I no longer feel stuck in the middle of their drama or trapped by unmet expectations. I've learned to focus on what I can control and to stop expecting my dad to change overnight. I've also come to understand that I have to let go of some of the resentment I've carried and meet him where he is, while still maintaining my own boundaries and needs. I'm no longer just surviving this situation, I'm learning to thrive in it. It's a process, but it's one I feel more equipped to handle now. And the best part? I don't feel isolated anymore. I feel like I have the tools and support to handle whatever comes next, whether it's with my dad or any other relationship in my life. So, yeah, it's been a long journey, but I'm genuinely feeling good about where things are going. My relationship with my dad is far from perfect, but it's real, and it's better than it's ever been. The emotional distance is shrinking, and I'm seeing him as a person, not just someone who pays a check. I still have moments of frustration, but they don't define me or our relationship anymore. Thank you all again for the incredible support. Your words really helped me find the strength to speak up, set boundaries, and ultimately start healing. I'm so glad I took that step to make things better, and I feel optimistic about the future. I'll always be grateful for the advice and kind words I received from you all. You really made a difference in my life.